think you could even crank that up a bit more if you've got any room. There's our middle brother, Andrew Slesser.
Hi, Andrew. It is a party, though, isn't it? Let's be honest.
It is a party. And who knew it? Who knew it, really?
Who knew it? So, welcome to that album. This week, it's the Talking Heads Stop Making Sense. So, Eric and I were in the green room before we went live. And we were saying, we've done a huge breadth of albums. Some have been, frankly, not very good albums, but they're sold a lot. You know, things like Brothers in Arms and The Raw and the Cook. Just a dreadful disappointment to us. Some have been not quite what we'd hoped for. So we knew they were going to be good, but actually when we got under the skin of them, Mama Said and The Fat of the Land were not great. Some have been a joy. You know, Kick, Faith, Rio, Jagged Little Pill, fantastic. And then there has been that band that have made the week worth getting up for. So Rumours, the two Joni Mitchells that we did, Blue and Hajira, us, Peter Gabriel, Sign of the Times, where we've just went, oh my God, who knew? So where was this one, my friend?
It's up there in that last bracket for me, and I'm gobsmacked.
When you and me both.
When you held up Violator, can't remember what the middle one was in this. I thought, well, I know a bit about Talking Heads. I'll chuck them in there. That'll be the one that would most appeal to me, because I'm into a bit of. I probably my earlier days I would have said I would have gone more towards sort of art rock and art pop and stuff like that. So yeah, I'll go for that, because I think I knew all about this. No, I didn't. I didn't know anything about it. I knew nothing about it. To me, it was the kind of quirky, odd. When I was trying to be sort of desperately sophisticated, new romantic into Japan and Spandau Ballet and thought I was a bit of a sort of popstar hipster with brooches on and all that. This guy was just a little bit weird, and I thought, yeah. But I, so I listened to this.
Good music, but a bit strange. Don't really get it.
Don't really get it. A bit odd.
It's nice.
Yeah, it's nice, but it's like radio music, but it's arty, and I can see that they come from that kind of like that stable of American, like that sort of new wave artiness. They all met at art school. They were all art students, and I get that. So they're trying to make art into music. So I approached this thinking, yeah, it'll be all right. I know a couple of the tracks, and I sat down and I was like, so I listened to it all the way through once with no thought. That's how I do this.
Yeah.
And then I listened to it again, and I'm like, so they're really clever. so they're really, really clever. They're brilliant musicians. The songwriting's superb. The performance is superb. Keeping in mind this is our first live album on the show.
Yeah, which actually that's staggering. So when you said that during the week, you said, remember, this is the first live album we've done. And although from the very outset you're aware that there's an audience there, but you kind of think it's staged, because the difference between a live album and a studio album is often that the live album actually doesn't sound so good because there's kind of limitations to what you can do with the sound, and there are some mistakes in it. So, one of the best-selling live albums of all time is Eric Clapton Unplugged, and there are loads of playing mistakes and singing mistakes in the album, and this, it's like it's been concocted in the studio, isn't it? And it's only when you said to me, you might want to check out the video of the concert, that you realise actually they've got on stage, they've performed this, they've put a camera and some mics on it, and they've gone, that'll do, we'll just put that on a bit of album.
It is immaculate. It's immaculate.
Absolutely.
Every single performer is on point. So there's an incredible performance, incredible musicality. Hi, Chris. Amazing intensity, amazing commitment to the art, which is their musical form. But also, I don't mind making a fool of myself when it's worth being made a fool of. I'd paid so little attention to Talking Heads. I was aware of them. They kind of came in and out of the sphere of my musical world. I thought David Byrne was the singer-songwriter. I didn't realise that when you hear Psycho Killer, that he comes out and that guitar, he's doing it.
Yeah, whilst dancing and singing. But for me, they were... I actually... Because obviously, when we were young, there was no internet. So if you liked a record, you went and bought it. You maybe heard it on the radio, but for this kind of stuff, probably not. So I had these guys pegged as being just like Kraftwerk. I thought they were a German group. The odd song popped up here and there, and you go, "Oh, that's pretty cool." Later on, I bought the album, and I should have recognised that quite a lot of thought had gone into this. So I love this on the album.
Yeah.
Why stop making sense? Why a movie? Why tour? Why do the musicians come out gradually? What will the band do next? Where do the odd movements come from? Are live concerts better or worse than records? Why no special effects in the movie? Why a big suit? It's just so.
But this is
self-deprecating.
Yeah, totally. But this is artists who are brilliant at music as well, that come out of that punk, art rock, funky, new wave. Anywhere we're standing in the record shop listening through headphones to new stuff. Yeah, totally amazing, right?
That was the point of going up to London to HMV.
And for me, it was to go to Tower Records in Glasgow. Yeah, to listen to it. Now we would have to spray it, clean it, wear a mask, put it on. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I've been blown away because I sat there a few times looking over, going, really? That is just phenomenal what they're doing. So complex. And as you say, when we do our little notes, I didn't know you did this, but we do exactly the same thing. We copy the lyrics, we put them over. The amount of complexity and just the lyrics alone are incredible.
Pages and pages of them. And it doesn't seem like there's that many words when you listen to the album, does it?
But then, as we'll find out as we start to listen to this, so that little like Mario Brothers ditty that they do, that then suddenly starts to get more complex.
I'm glad you said Mario Brothers. So, 1983.
Right.
So in 1983, Mario Brothers was released, as was Cabbage Patch Dolls, as was Thriller,
right.
As was CD in America. It was already in Europe and Japan, but not in America at that point. You may well remember this as being one of the greatest years ever, because Aberdeen beat Real Madrid to win the European Cup.
Oh yes, absolutely. I was a Glasgow boy at the time, but I did hear that the people from up north had done that. Yes.
We talk about people when they're young and what they achieve, like George Michael and that sort of thing. We've got Samantha Druce, age 12, swam the English Channel this year. Wow. Age 12. Richard Noble, 650 miles an hour, world land speed record. No notable births though this year. Well, except Amy Winehouse. Andrew Garfield and Cheryl Cole, but they don't really count, do they? But lots of sad deaths. Desmond Bagley, the author, Tennessee Williams, William Walton, the composer, Buster Crabbe, who you will remember from Flash Gordon when you were a kid.
Yeah.
Buckminster Fuller, Ira Gershwin, Ruben Rousing, who invented the Tetra Pak, and Juan Miro, the artist. So 1983 in a minute. But yeah, like Super Mario came out this year.
So in amongst that little plinky plonky start to the music where the bass starts to come in and then they start to drive, which I've now found as a kind of motif of their music, where they'll have a driving repetitive rhythm. Yep. It has been recorded that David Byrne thinks he's definitely got some form of Asperger's or autism. And he's been undiagnosed, but lots of his medical friends have said that you're right in the center,
right in the middle of where you need to be.
Yeah, unstoppably focused on something to the point where nothing else matters. So actually, what you find out is that they're very clever musicians. They like this kind of like driving undercurrent of a mixture of what they loved. They grew up listening to Parliament And then you realise that they were also, as a group at art school, they were into Fela Kuti. They were into world music, African rhythms and stuff like that. So when you start to hear funk, a little bit of experimental punk, new wave, avant-garde music coming, they were into Cannes from Germany. If you mix all that together, you get this big, rich swelling. And then you add in socio-political commentary on social conditions, cleverly masked as little songs. Pretty amazing stuff. I'm chuffed to bits that this has happened this week. Do you want some stats?
No, not really. Yeah, of course.
Stop Making Sense is the live album from American rock band Talking Heads. It's the soundtrack to the film of the same name. 9 tracks were on the original, albeit with a tiny bit of treatment and editing that they did. So not just the raw recording. They did a tiny little bit of studio treatment. The album spent over 2 years on the Billboard 200 chart. It was the first album to be distributed by EMI outside North America. The album was ranked 345th on the Rolling Stones magazine list of the 500 greatest albums of all time. In 2000, it was voted 394 on Colin Larkin's all-time 1,000 albums. And in 2012, Slant magazine listed it at number 61 on the best albums of the 1980s.
So hold on a sec. Let's just wind back to one of the points you said earlier. So this was the 80s. This was the high point of music being written. So Chris said about Elton John and Bowie, and obviously, loads and loads, Rod Stewart, The Stone, loads and loads of mega bands there bringing out albums every single year. And this spent 2 years in the top 200 albums.
2 solid years.
And
I think one of the reasons for that is there's something for everyone on here.
Mm.
There is something for everyone. If there's someone who's like, oh, that's a poppy little tune, I quite like that, or that's pretty complex and kind of like current and all of that. Well, that's a nice tune. There's lots and lots of stuff in here. And Talking Heads themselves formed in 1975 in New York City, and were active until 1991.
Just quickly, where does David Byrne hail from originally?
Yeah, he was born in Dumbarton, so technically they're a Scottish band. Technically they're a Scottish band. Yeah, we're claiming
they all.
David Byrne, Chris France, Tina Weymouth on bass, Jerry Harrison on keyboards and guitar, drummer Chris France, and they were described as one of the most critically acclaimed bands of the 80s. The group helped to pioneer new wave music, integrating elements of punk, art rock, funk, and world music with an anxious, and I think that's a clear word because David is tense and anxious. It's sometimes not a pleasant watch to watch him performing. When you watch the Stop Making Sense thing and he comes out and says, I'd like to play a tape, and starts, you think, well, this guy's clearly on some sort of stimulant because he's
I don't think he was, though, ever, was he?
No, he wasn't. He wasn't. He didn't even drink coffee.
That's a very good point, Chris.
Yeah, Jim Kerr introduced me.
I'm glad you said that. That's reminded me. So I said I had a good story about this. Well, I think it's a good story because it's one of my famous stories. This is your Jim Kerr story. This is my equivalent. So my first wife played the mandolin. And
sounds like a Joni Mitchell song already.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a story attached to that as well. And she was playing at the first performance of a work that David Byrne had written.
Right.
So this was in the mid to late 80s. So he was not Talking Heads famous at that point. It was after that where he was doing some more highbrow stuff. So he'd written a thing for orchestra, and which included some mandolins, and a singer who was Alison Moyet. So I went to the concert. My wife was performing. She got pally with Alison Moyet. Anyway, or chatted her during that time. Anyway, the next weekend, we're in M&S in Oxford Street, and who should be there in the underwear department but Alison Moyet?
Right.
And my wife said to her, "Hello, Alison." And Alison said, "Oh, hello, Sue." And they had a hug and they were having a chat. And Sue said, "This is my husband, Adam." And I went, yeah. Exactly. That's the only time I've ever been starstruck. And it was like, just nothing came out that was intelligible. And she just sort of kind of smiled and went, and then walked off.
It would have been really funny if you went, "Sorry, Alison, can't stop now, don't you know? I ain't ever going to let you go." Don't go!
Yeah. If I'd have been you, I would have done.
No, not at all. Not at all. So we've got art school students came involved in the 1970s New York punk scene. Talking Heads released their 1977 album Talking Heads 77 to positive reviews and just built after that, right through to the point where they took a bit of a hiatus at their peak, but they came back with this live album, which is actually the soundtrack to a stage performance, which is worth watching. It's actually on Amazon Prime right now. Stop Making Sense, put it on. It's fantastic, and I love like artists, which they were and are. They do it really really cool. It starts with the stage in bits, like
it's empty, like it's an empty movie
paint
set.
tins and ladders and
Yeah.
all the backdrop and all that, and they slowly build up to the point over 4 or 5 songs until they get the stage on and the artist is on.
So paint the picture. So he walks out onto stage with a guitar on his strap, and there's a single microphone in the middle of the stage, and he walks up and he's got a
boombox,
puts it down and says, "I want to play a tape," presses play, gets hold of the guitar, and this is what comes out. So this is the tape player, which is supposedly making this noise.
Can't seem to face up to the facts. Tense and nervous, can't relax. Can't sleep, bed's on fire. Don't touch me, I'm a real live wire. Psycho killer, qu'est-ce que c'est?
I just don't, like I said to you, when I was listening to this over the course of the week, I found it really difficult to analyze what was going on and do that album stuff, because it's just such fantastic music, such a fantastic performance, like those real pinnacle albums where you can post rationalize it and go through and read the lyrics and then read what people have said. Oh, it means this, and any interviews with people, which I've done, like you have. But actually listening to it, it's just washed over me like a comforting blanket, really.
Yeah, when actually this shouldn't, because this is actually a very very awkward song about a very very difficult subject. This song was takes us inside the head of a deranged murderer. This song, do you know when this song was actually written?
Yeah, it was written before, but actually this arrived in the charts, didn't it? It was launched just after somebody was
unfortunately
arrested.
There was a horrendous killing. But 1973 they penned this at the Rhode Island School of Design. They sat down and put this together. He said he wanted to do a song which was like an Alice Cooper song, a sort of shock rock. He started with the first verse and he sat down and he wrote, "I can't seem to face up to the facts. I'm tense and nervous. I can't relax. I can't sleep. My bed's on fire. Don't touch me. I'm a real live wire."
So sorry, when did it? 1973?
1973 they scribbled it.
So at the age of 21?
At the age of 21, yes.
Don't feel bad, Eric.
Don't feel bad, absolutely. So it takes us inside the head of this, and this song has been played everywhere. This song features in an episode of The Simpsons where Homer was hired by an agency to kill famous celebrities so they could use their now public domain identities to advertise their products and services. So it's, while he's creeping around trying to be a hitman, they're playing this song. He flits into French because, of course, when he moved from Dumbarton to Canada at a young age, he spoke French at school, so he was quite comfortable scooting about in the French language, which is nice. And the French part of the song says, "What I did that night, what she said that night, realizing my hopes, I launched myself towards a glorious destiny." Ooh.
Yeah, heavy stuff.
Heavy stuff. So Psycho Killer is is
Psycho Killer, qu'est-ce que c'est?
Qu'est-ce que c'est? Fa 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 fa. Yeah, so it's a topper, and it's been around for a long time. Chris Frantz considers this the definitive Talking Heads song. Quotes, because it's all mixed up. He told Song Facts, it's a little bit crazy and it's a little bit funky. It's kind of like Alice Cooper meets Sam and Dave. It really hits the Talking Heads mark.
I would agree, and actually, we can do it at the end. But I really struggled with working out what was my favourite song from the album.
Oh, I know mine.
Because there are a number here that I think, oh, I really like that.
Mine is there's a clue in my my name there.
Yeah,
I definitely know mine. Definitely know mine. This is a new joy for me. This is now on a daily playlist.
Okay, good.
Yeah, but it's funny talking about this one. It's funny how they sat down to write an Alice Cooper kind of record, and they ended up writing a song about the mind of a serial killer, which sort of goes into French. But I think the French bit's really interesting because this reminds me of the kind of thing you might hear a Parisian busker standing on a street corner with a Gauloise and some Pernod on a table beside them. There's a Parisianness to this to me, musically.
Yes, I know, and maybe that's part of that sort of. Well, I don't think it's Parisianness. I think it's European.
Yeah, okay.
And I think that's why I thought this might have been a band with German
Right,
roots,
okay, yeah,
Kraftwerk, because it has that
Gotcha.
kind of. There's a sophistication to it, isn't there?
Very much so.
So should we move on to Swamp?
Can we have a tiny bit more of Psycho Killer, just because I love it? Are you allowed? Are you able to?
Yeah.
I mean, he puts everything into his performance, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He must be exhausted after this.
Absolutely.
Oh. Completely unique the way he phrases his lyrics. There's no one like it. Love it.
And I'm picturing him on stage, and I'm thinking again about this the big suit thing, because that's so funny. And he says here on the back, special effects, why a big suit? And it's quite interesting reading about that, isn't it? He wanted to make his head look smaller, and he said, so the biggest way to make my head look smaller is just to put a bigger suit on. So it's quite interesting that because it starts with just him on the stage, and then that's a good point. It's like a bit of a loving going on here, isn't it?
Yeah, that is.
He comes onto the stage, and because he's tall and slim, isn't he?
Yeah.
He comes onto the stage, and it's just him with his guitar. And then for the next track, more people come on, and the next track, more people come on, and the stage gradually, and the instruments come on, and between tracks, often he goes off and he puts a bigger suit on. And the suit gets bigger and bigger and bigger until it's probably twice the width of him, not
easily
twice the width. So his head looks like a little pebble, doesn't it?
I know, but I think it's really funny when he takes the jacket off and you can see the extenders round his body and the trousers. It's quite funny. Shall we rock on with track number 2?
Indeed.
Mario Brothers.
Incidental music from which film?
Oh, I think it might be an Eddie Murphy film, is it?
No.
Nah, go on then.
Wall Street.
When
Bud Fox is in his apartment getting ready for the party, this is what's playing.
Right.
in motion. All those beauties, they're gonna smile you. Let's go.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
What can you say? It's such a lovely
What can-
contrast to the previous song.
But they're very tight. They're very tight as a band.
Mm.
Such a tight song. That driving rhythm just constantly pounding away while he's being quite quirky with his lyrical delivery and all of that. I find this. It's quite intimidating. It's quite. I still think it's fabulous, but it's deliberately made to be quite. For me, it's like putting on a woolen jumper that you really like the look of with no t-shirt underneath. It's a wee bit prickly and uncomfortable. This song deliberately.
Yeah. But then, like you said, a lot of his kind of stage persona is exactly that, isn't it? It makes you shift uncomfortably in your seat.
Yeah.
It makes you perceive him in exactly the way he wants you to perceive him. There's no confusing him with someone else.
No, not at all.
Yeah, I mean, fantastic song. I love it. That driving rhythm, the energy behind it. It's very much, the sound is very much of the era.
Yeah.
Which
however, I would challenge. I'd chuck a challenge in here that if you'd delivered this album to me and said this came out last week, I might believe you.
I know what you mean. I might
believe you. In a kind of like it might be a band doing a kind of retro sound, but
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's something about it that's got a wee bit of timelessness about it. Yeah, some of the musicality does date it a little bit, but you could say that might be a bit of a retro thing. But yeah, it still stands up.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, evidenced by the fact that we've been very open about our feelings for all of the albums that we've studied over the course of the time, and some of them we've come in going, "Oh God, that was an awful week."
That was hard,
shocking. Yeah. Whereas this has just been anyway. On to a song which probably you're quite partial to a bit of.
Yeah, I'm going to say I just put down awesome from the opening first two bars. I am completely invested. Yes, yes, yes. That's what I've written.
Fantastic. Where the harmonies come in and because it's so sparse and you can hear absolutely everything, it's still impossible to believe that this is recorded live, isn't it?
Oh, unbelievable. The harmonies are fantastic. I'm so glad that they're influenced by what I've travelled quite a bit extensively in Africa, up and down the coast of West Africa, and I've been in bars at night and restaurants at night where the local house band has been playing. And the opening bars to this song,
like that. When, as it starts, I thought to myself, this is like a lot of the songs from the vibe and the mix of the sound from Night Clubbing by Grace Jones.
Yeah, totally.
That same sort of French Guiana kind of pumping rhythm, sophisticated and very smooth.
Very smooth, but allows the vocalists and the lead instrumentalist, because there's such a solid rhythm track going down there, they can layer anything they want onto it and it's going to cope with it. It's going to take it because it's solid. But the harmonies, absolutely gorgeous. I flipping love this. Love it, love it, love it, love it.
I'll give you a little bit more then, shall I?
Yeah.
What's the matter with you? He's all right. I see his face. I don't know.
Ah, yeah, just fantastic. And it's one of those things where every track is better than the last. I mean, it starts, but you know, it just builds and builds and builds. Just fantastic, absolutely.
But he
fantastic.
still manages to. It's amazing that we're singing all these praises. He still manages to find a little thumbnail just to work underneath your skin just a little bit, just to make you feel a little bit uncomfortable. It's quite challenging, but it's fabulous, right? He's yeah, amazing.
So this the next track is one of the candidates for best track on the album for me.
Yeah, easily. Even though Tom Jones has sort of sullied it a little bit for me, but we'll just leave that.
So we did say at some point we might do, you know, best covers ever. It won't be cropping up on that then, I take it.
Oh yeah, yeah, that won't be cropping up on it at all. But this is an absolute pumping, thrusting powerhouse, and it's a shame it was copied by Tom Jones.
Yeah, it's harmless. It was used in Flushed Away, wasn't it?
Was it?
I believe so.
Right.
Which was, as you know, a film about rats living in the sewer.
Exactly. Yes.
I love an interesting thing. You know, we said about Jeff Lynne is always waiting on a railway station, and Joni Mitchell is always in a dark bar somewhere.
Yes.
David Burnett would appear as always because a lot of his songs start with don't they? Watch out,
Simon.
You might get what you're after.
Yeah.
You know, it is an interesting opening to a song. But I love this. Absolutely.
That's fabulous. It's a pumping, thrusting powerhouse. I've written a party track. And again, just a reminder, it's live.
Yeah. It's so together. It's almost like the audience have been put on in post-production, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. Sometimes we end up in shows like this. We just don't want to turn it off, really, do we?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was reading some notes that I grabbed from somewhere, and it says a few of the shows were recorded for the concert film, which Stop Making Sense, which shows the band in peak form, especially on this track.
Yeah,
which works the crowd into a frenzy. After the tour, David Byrne ordered the band to stop touring. They released 3 more albums, but never played any of those songs live. Which seems like such a terrible shame after having such a talent for doing this, because lots of bands, they don't translate well from the studio to the stage. I mean, they do a stage version of it, but you know, there are too many special effects or too many musicians or too many overlaying things, and they have to radically change it for it to work in a live environment. So it just seems like a terrible shame to have cut it off after this.
Yeah, but it's a bit like we've seen it before throughout history with the artist who basically says it was never about massive popularity. That bit of the art form is done. It's now put in a box and it's away. That's done. We're on to the next thing.
Yeah.
So we
really interesting point here. That's exactly right. You feel like you're in the audience with this.
You totally do. Yeah, you totally do. Phenomenal. Now, keeping in mind that this man is now 69 years old. And you can buy tickets at the St. James's Theatre to go and see him doing American Utopia, his latest show. He's still doing this. He's still doing it. Now, if you're on TikTok or you're on YouTube, go in and type David Byrne American Utopia, where he's got a cast of hundreds on the stage dressed in exactly the same grey suit.
The same as him.
With no shoes on, doing these complicated kind of arm movements to these songs. And he's still cranking out cutting-edge art pop with dance music, art, and singing and all of that, all of these different art forms and sculpture and all of that all combined together, almost like Peter Gabriel, that music, art, dance thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So is it right if I have just a little bit more of this?
No, of
Because
course.
I love this. Yeah, I think one of these days we're just going to come in and put an album on and go and make a cup of tea, aren't we?
Yeah, just say crack on, enjoy yourself. I'm just trying to work out why 365 degrees. Why 360? There will be a reason. 365 degrees Fahrenheit, I'm guessing. 185 degrees Celsius.
Yeah. Don't
know, mate. There'll be a reason. He's too clever.
Yeah. Well, 365 days in a year.
Could be.
Because it's you know what temperature paper burns at, don't you?
Yeah, it's Fahrenheit 451.
It is indeed.
Is that right? Yeah.
It is. Yeah. Great
absolutely.
film.
Great film. I mean, scary film.
Yeah. Yeah.
Put it in the context of what's happening in the world right now. Scary film. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Cool. What's next?
Girlfriend is better.
I've got. I've written in my notes in my own hand. Should I die, this is going to be left. My God, these people know how to grab you. Again, they do what they do best. They lay down a tight driving undercurrent and layer over those sometimes spiky but dreamy harmonies. And I've put brackets. These are my notes. Prince before Prince. Devo around the time of Devo. So it reminded me a bit of Devo, who they would have been friends with and influenced by. They would have influenced each other. I can imagine talking heads at Devo at parties trying to outquirk each other.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, do you know that when they met David Byrne at art school, he walked into the canteen. He never had a lot of friends, strangely, and he had on a T-shirt, braces, chinos that were flared, that were too short for him, a pair of white tap shoes, and a complete long beard and moustache on one side of his face, completely clean-shaven on the other.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And Chris France said, check that guy. And Tina Weymouth said, what's the beard all about? It was perfectly down here, shaved, clean, massive beard, moustache.
Thing is, now that is the dictionary definition of a man who doesn't give a shit, isn't it?
Not at all. I don't care. And I don't understand why people think I should care.
Absolutely. Right, so here we go.
I can see Prince doing the splits.
I hadn't made the connection. Absolutely, you can, yeah.
I can see the new power generation all dancing.
Yeah.
Please leave this track on to play.
Sorry, I will, yes. I mean, the thing is that when you get something like this, it's like, I guess, like in many ways, Hejira and Blue, and you can read the lyrics out and you can post rationalize it, but actually, what's the
It
point?
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. So there are some songs where we like to dissect, and we heard this bit and see when he says that. With this one, here's "Girlfriend Is Better."
Yeah, absolutely. Eric, am I right in thinking that our favourite band took their name from?
No. One of my favorite. They took the name of their from a David Bowie song.
Which
Simple Minds.
Ah,
One of my favorite bands. They took their name from a Simple Minds song. I think it's Aladdin Sane, where he talks about we've got simple minds, and they're like, ooh, because they were Johnny and the Self Abusers before that, and that wasn't really working out.
I can't imagine why. The next song, "Once in a Lifetime." I mean, this is a really challenging song. So I love this. You may find yourself living in a shotgun shack. You may find yourself in another part of the world. You may find yourself behind the wheel of a large automobile. You may find yourself in a beautiful house with a beautiful wife. You may ask yourself, well, how did I get here? And then this whole kind of, hold on, this is not my house. This is not my wife. This is
poetry. This is observational art, socio-political commentary, genius songwriting I've written down here. This is Michelin star music I've written. A songwriting team and a performers at the top of their game, mixing pop art music with thought leadership about social conditions. This is freaking genius.
This is it. And I don't believe anybody can listen to this song and hear the words and not feel to themselves, yeah, am I actually where I need to be?
yeah.
It is a very challenging and interesting lyric on this.
Have you noticed who's on the writing credits for this one? Quite unusually.
I did make a note.
It's a big thumping name to have on your writing. So up till now, it's always Byrne, France, Harrison, Weymouth. But there's a certain name in this one which makes you go, aha, Brian Eno.
Ah, yes.
Epic.
But also there is Glenn Ballard, who produced and co-wrote hits for Alanis Morissette, as we covered at some length. He said about this, this song cannot be touched. I listen to it once a month because everything about it is so perfect.
Yeah, this is in this sort of category of don't ever try and cover this because you're just going to make a fool of yourself.
It's
untouchable.
Okay, so here we go.
Living in a shotgun shack. You may find yourself in another part of the world. You may find yourself behind the wheel of a large automobile. You may find yourself in a beautiful house with a beautiful wife. You may ask yourself, well, how did I get here? Glad in the days gone by, let the water on me. Glad in the days gone by, water flowing underground. Into the blue again, after the money's gone. Once in a lifetime, water flowing underground. You may ask yourself, how do I work this? You may ask yourself, where is that large automobile? You may tell yourself, this is not my beautiful house. You may tell yourself, this is not my beautiful wife. Let the days go by, let the water on me down.
Just another one. I could let that play for the entirety of the song. It's
it's kind of harsh to just switch it off.
Yeah, I mean that could be my favorite song from the album. You know, there's that. There's Burning Down the House. There's Psycho Killer. There's Swamp. We're only.
What, you're just listing all the tracks now? That's all you're doing now.
Yeah, well, it is a bit like that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fabulous, fabulous. I remember hearing it at the time and thinking, I don't understand this. It's a bit complex. It's a bit spiky. But this listen to it now. It's phenomenal.
Yeah. Again, you know, what can you say? And it's so lovely to do that. Like, you know, I still think back to the first one that we did, Rumours, where, you know, an album we know inside out. We don't know what we're going to talk about for an hour, so we'll put Rumours on because we all know that this album. And both of us just sat down and went, "Holy moly, that is not what I was expecting." And I've had another one of those epiphanies about this album.
Yeah, me too. Me too. We're actually. It's not about us dissecting it. It's about us playing the songs.
So, what a day that was!
I've written how to take a country song and make it electronic art pop. Essentially, I think this is a country song. A country music song, which they've taken and put a bit of electronica to it. This is clever.
Yeah.
Excellent.
It's listening to it. It's hard to believe that it's on the same album from the same band as some of the songs that have gone before it, because it's so different, isn't it?
Yeah,
such
totally.
A different mix, such a different kind of texture of sound, a different pace. Like you said, much less pumping rhymthm, much more upbeat. Like I think more bluegrass than country, but I absolutely get that kind of twangy. You know, you would play this at a barn dance, wouldn't you?
100%. It's got that kind of country bluegrass feel about it, but they do it, and I mean, you get David Byrne to sing out the Telephone Book, and it's a Talking Heads track, right? He gives anything that they do that essence. I mean, it's not like the singer leaves a band and they replace him and crack on. If David Byrne leaves Talking Heads, well, actually, if David Byrne leads Talking Heads, you go on as the Tom Tom Club, don't you? That's what you do.
So, Life in Wartime. And I think what's really interesting is that when you go online and you read about the songs on this album, some of them there were reams and reams and reams of stuff written about them, and some of them there's not very much. And the next one, Life During Wartime, is one of those tracks where there's loads and loads of stuff, and you have to wade through loads of stuff. The wiki entry says punk music is very much about going against the mainstream and disrupting life as we know it. And whilst the Sex Pistols song sang vengefully about destroying the government in Anarchy in the UK, Life During Wartime has a similar sentiment with a different tone. And interestingly, some of the lyrics in this, he talks about CBGB and the Mud Club, where their first things, where they opened for the Ramones, obviously another punk band.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, this was pseudo.
Yeah.
So this was produced by Brian Eno, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Who it says who was a biggie on the experimental music scene, as we know.
Well, that's how you sum up Brian Eno's career. A biggie on the experimental music scene.
Well,
not you summing it up. Someone summing it up.
Yeah, better than he was in the experimental music scene.
This is very, very on trend for this band. Funky Afro beats. The the confidence in the chorus and the vocal, just wow. Yeah, huge.
Yeah.
Heard of a man that is loaded with weapons, packed up, ready to go. Heard of some grave sites out on the highway, place where nobody knows. The sound of gunfire up in the distance, I'm getting used to it now. Lived in a brownstone, I lived in a ghetto, I've been all over this town. This ain't no party, this ain't no disco, this ain't no fooling around. The time for dancing, I love you, Delvin, I ain't got time for that now. Let's get the message to the receiver, hope for an answer someday. I got 3 passports, couple of visas, don't even know about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the moment, songs about weapons and stuff just seem a little bit out of place, don't they?
Wondering if you're going to get home and the sound of gunfire in the distance and all that.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
damn.
Obviously, we didn't know that, did we, at the time that
No,
we
not
agreed
at
to
all.
do this?
Yeah.
Again, well, what can you say? A truly outstanding song. Aren't they all? Aren't they all on this
But
album?
they write an anti-war protest song from the perspective of someone experiencing wartime,
Yeah,
modern
and-
wartime as well.
yeah, because it's about an insurgent, isn't it? Giving up their creature comforts to go to war, and
Yeah.
it does seem rather prophetic that we should be doing that this week, given the news earlier in the week.
Absolutely.
Interesting though that the song apparently was written around Tina's bass line that she'd written for this.
Right. Yeah.
So that was the kind of the foundation. Well, it's often the foundation for a piece of music, but actually
Mm-hmm.
that was the first thing that came out, and then the song was built around that. Great. Which brings us to the last track, which is obviously a cover.
Yeah,
isn't it?
absolutely. And if you're going to do a cover, because we've experienced some, I think the Raw and the Cook, where we both heard covers and we're like, what is the point of doing a cover if you're not going to add some of your own spice to it and maybe try and improve it? Because just simply doing a half-hour version,
A bit like
of a song.
people who cover Christine McVie's stuff, for example. There's just no point. Is there?
So this is the cover of the Al Green classic "Take Me to the River," and there are some people who will know and love this version of this song and think it's a Talking Heads song, probably who haven't heard the Al Green version, because they do this in their way and they make it their own.
Well, for me, this is a Talking Heads song.
Yeah, it's a Talking Heads song.
You can tell where Robert Palmer got Addicted to Love bass line from there, can't you?
kind of ironic that they end on "Take Me to the River," which is a song about baptism and dunk me in the water and cleanse me of all my sins and all that. Because I'm often sometimes when I see, like, right at the start of Slippery, Slippery When Wet, Stop Making Sense, he reminds me of a manic preacher on like an evangelist trying to
kind of see that.
yeah. So I've always thought that about him, that he's got that kind of like, and in some of their videos he's impersonated the kind of like the evangelistic touching the heads and doing all of that. Quite interesting that they choose to finish on that. It's a beautiful version of a song, and you know, there are some artists that take a version of a song and just own it from then on in.
Yeah, and I think it's it kind of just ties off the album really nicely. I mean, I do think that this is the cream of what they've achieved as a band.
Yeah,
and I think that the live performance, the video of the live performance, is something that everybody should watch. Because it's a proper experience, isn't it? You know, it's not just a band on stage. Not that there's anything wrong with a band on stage performing their songs, but it's more than that.
They give you way more than that.
Who was it that? All performance art to music, as Andrew said.
Mm-hmm.
And it absolutely is. You know, there's a bigger thing going on there than just singing some songs. And
so for years, I've answered, what's your favourite live album of all time, as Depeche Mode 101. It's the best live album ever made. I don't think so now. Changed my mind.
Wow.
Changed my mind.
Yeah. I mean, I absolutely love this. And I can't, off the top of my head, think of any live album that I would rather have than this.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Loved it. Loved this week. It's been great.
And I think, because I think that this has all the benefits of a live album, but none of the downsides. You know, people playing wrong notes does my head in. People, you know, when you've got something which is so slick, indeed. When you get something which is so slick and it's live, I just think is a joy, because it ticks all of the boxes for me.
Very much so.
So this has been an exceptional week for me. You know, it's on that pinnacle again.
Oh, Andrew agrees. Best live album ever.
Yeah.
I would never have put this in the running because I didn't understand it enough. So, when we finally get around to listening, she said, "If I knew you'd like that." Tangerine Dream, fantastic. So in a way, I kind of chose this because you gave me 3. So it's over to you for next week. What do you think? Have you got an idea?
Yeah. So I have been thinking of this, and oddly, I actually listened to this album this week because I was listening to this album. And it kind of, you know how your mind kind of wanders sometimes, and you think, I can't. I'm feeling myself being drawn towards that. So I think, you know, I'm a big Police fan. And in fact, the performance thing is a really big thing. I went with a friend of mine to see the Police probably 10 years ago, where they had reformed to do this concert tour. It was so expensive. It was, you know, 10 years ago, it was 200 quid a ticket, whatever it was. And we went to Wembley Arena to see them. And, you know, they basically came out on stage and they were dressed exactly as they were dressed in the 80s. So Copeland in a shell suit, Summers in a jacket and a stripy T-shirt, and Sting in parachute pants and a vest. And they performed exactly, it sounded just like the studio albums. They didn't do, and you know, we've reworked this because that's not what people were paying 200 quid a head for. They were playing to hear exactly, and I've never heard a live band so tight. Absolutely outstanding. And I'm a big fan of Sting. I think he's incredibly talented. So, so the first Sting album,
oh right,
he did when he left the Police, he took a little bit of time off, and then he kind of got his head into writing and multi-instrumentalist skills, although that was predominantly for writing the stuff. So The Dream of the Blue Turtles, which is a great album, and I've always liked it, but having listened to it again this week, I think it probably deserves more examination than I've previously given it. And it would be lovely to do that with you, if you're okay with that one.
I'm totally up for that. That's splendid. So everyone that normally, I know that Andrew and Simon and Chris are regulars, and anyone else who joins in, jump in with that album, have a listen to it, and you can jump in on the chat and give us pointers that we didn't find out about it and that we missed, and that would be lovely.
Indeed. So
Right.
to all the guests, thank you so much for joining, as always. So Eric, thanks for being my buddy on this. And to David Byrne and the Talking Heads, a bit
Now
lost
it's
for words, really.
Yeah, totally. It's time to run away.
Indeed, it is. And with that, have a great weekend, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.